My name is Clara Whitmore. I was 27 years old when I learned that the person who knew me best had also known exactly where to place the knife. For most of my life, I thought being a twin meant never having to face the world alone. Sophia and I had shared everything before we even had names: a womb, a birthday, a bedroom with 2 white beds pushed against opposite walls, first school photos where our mother dressed us in matching yellow dresses, first heartbreaks whispered under blankets, first secrets, first dreams. Sophia was my sister, my mirror, my emergency contact, the woman I once planned to have standing beside me when I married James. And then one ordinary brunch destroyed 27 years of belief. It happened at Sophia's apartment on a Sunday morning. Nothing dramatic at first, just coffee, cinnamon rolls, sunlight spilling across her marble countertop, and Sophia humming in the bathroom while touching up her makeup. Our phones were on the counter, same model, same pale blue case. We had bought them for each other the year before as a joke because, according to Sophia, twins are legally required to be predictable. I picked up the wrong one. The screen lit up with a message from Kyle. "Did you convince Clara to turn down the promotion yet? I still can't believe she doesn't know I'm your boyfriend, not your gay best friend." For a moment, I could not breathe. Kyle. Sophia's sweet, charming, supposedly gay, best friend Kyle. The one who had hugged me too long at her birthday party. The one Sophia always laughed off by saying, "Relax, Clara, you're not his type." My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. I should have put the phone down. I should have waited for Sophia to come out and explain. But some quiet, wounded instinct inside me already knew there would be no innocent explanation. So I scrolled. 3 years. 3 years of messages. Not vague jealousy, not one angry comment, not a misunderstanding. A record. A plan. Sophia had been taking my life apart piece by piece while sitting beside me, holding my hand, pretending to help me survive the damage she had caused. There were messages about James, my ex-fiancé, screenshots Sophia had edited to make it look like I was cheating, lies she sent him while comforting me through the breakup. There were messages about the promotion I turned down because Sophia cried and told me I wasn't emotionally ready, that the pressure would break me again. She had celebrated that one. She actually thanked me for talking her out of it. She's so easy when she's scared. I gripped the counter. There were messages about my friends, names I had cried over, people who slowly stopped calling, people I thought I had lost because I had become too sad, too quiet, too difficult after James left. Sophia had told them I was mocking them behind their backs. And the worst part was not even what she did. It was how she wrote about me. Mom always loved Clara more. Everyone always did. But who looks successful now? Watching her cry over James was almost too easy. She thinks I'm saving her. That's the funny part. The bathroom door opened. Sophia stepped out, smiling, flawless as always, until her eyes dropped to the phone in my hand. For half a second, her face changed. Not fear.
Calculation.
Then she smiled again. "Clara," she said softly, "you grabbed mine by mistake." I handed it back. "Kyle texted you." Her eyes flicked down. She read the notification. And I watched my sister understand that her game was over. "Clara," she whispered, "I can explain." "Don't." My voice sounded strange. Calm. Empty. She stepped toward me. "You don't understand. I was trying to protect you." I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Protect me from James? From my job? From my friends? Her eyes filled with tears, perfect and immediate. "James wasn't good enough for you. That promotion would have overwhelmed you. I know you better than anyone." "No," I said quietly. "You know how to hurt me better than anyone. There's a difference." Sophia stared at me like she still believed she could fix it with the right expression. That was the terrifying thing about her. She had spent so many years manipulating people that emotion had become choreography. Every tear timed perfectly, every tremble in her voice carefully measured. Yesterday it would have worked on me. Yesterday I would have held her while she cried. But now I could see the machinery underneath. I picked up my purse slowly, my real phone, my jacket hanging over the stool beside me. Sophia followed me immediately. "Clara, please don't leave like this." "Like what?" "Like I'm some monster." The word almost made me laugh. I turned toward her. "What would you call someone who destroys her own sister's engagement for entertainment?" Her face tightened. It wasn't entertainment. Then what was it? Her breathing became shallow. I could see the panic now. Not because she felt guilty, but because she was losing control of the narrative. "You were changing," she said quickly. After James proposed, you stopped needing me. The sentence hit me harder than the screenshots. Not because it shocked me, because deep down, it explained everything. Every time my life moved forward, Sophia found a way to pull me backward. When I got accepted into an advanced academic program in college, she suddenly had a breakdown and begged me not to move away. I stayed. When my social media following grew during my marketing career, she started casually telling me I was becoming fake and obsessed with attention. I deleted most of it. When James proposed, Sophia spent months quietly pointing out his flaws until I started questioning every happy moment. I had mistaken sabotage for concern. You needed me miserable, I whispered. That's not true. It is. Her voice cracked. You have no idea what it's like standing next to you your whole life. I blinked. There it is. Sophia's tears spilled faster now. You got everything without trying. People loved you instantly. Teachers preferred you. Men noticed you first. Mom defended you no matter what. That's not true. Yes, it is, she snapped. The sudden sharpness in her voice sliced through the room. For the first time in my life, Sophia stopped pretending to be kind. You don't know what it felt like, she said bitterly. Watching everyone compare us and always choosing you. I stared at her in disbelief. We were sisters, Sophia. No, she whispered. We were competitors. You just never noticed because you were winning. The silence afterward felt endless. Outside her apartment window, the city kept moving. Cars passed, a siren wailed somewhere far away. Someone laughed downstairs. But inside that kitchen, something irreversible had happened. 27 years of shared history collapsed into rubble. I walked toward the door. Sophia grabbed my wrist. Not hard.
Desperate.
Clara, listen to me. I know I went too far sometimes, but I can fix this. I looked down at her hand touching me. The same hand that held mine during panic attacks. The same hand that zipped my wedding dress before the ceremony that never happened. The same hand that typed messages celebrating my suffering. I pulled away. You know what the saddest part is? I asked quietly. Her lips trembled. I never knew we were competing. I thought I was lucky because I had a sister who loved me. Her face crumpled completely then. And maybe some part of her pain was real. But real pain does not erase deliberate cruelty. I left her apartment without another word. The drive home was silent. No music. No crying. Just the sound of my breathing and the terrible realization that almost every major heartbreak of my adult life had fingerprints on it. At a red light, I remembered the night James left. Sophia had sat beside me on my apartment floor while I sobbed into her shoulder. She told me any man who doubted me didn't deserve me. She ordered food, tucked blankets around me, slept beside me like she was protecting me from grief, all while knowing she had caused it. My stomach twisted so violently, I thought I might throw up. By the time I reached my apartment, the numbness had transformed into something colder. Clarity. Sophia expected an explosion. She expected screaming, crying, confrontation, chaos. That was how she survived, by controlling emotional reactions. But I suddenly understood something my sister never realized about me. I had spent years surviving heartbreak quietly, and quiet people are dangerous when they finally stop trusting you. I entered my apartment and locked the door behind me. For a long time, I just stood there in the dark living room. The framed engagement photo with James still sat on the shelf. I had never found the courage to throw it away. In the picture, he was kissing my forehead while I laughed at something outside the frame. Sophia had taken that photo. The realization nearly shattered me again. I sank onto the couch and opened my laptop. At first, I told myself I only wanted proof. But deep down, another part of me had already made a decision. Sophia had spent 3 years building a false version of reality around everyone. And the truth was finally going to cost her. I started organizing everything I remembered. Every suspicious moment. Every strange coincidence. Every conversation that suddenly sounded different now. Then I began recording our future calls. Not because I wanted revenge. Because for the first time in my life, I understood who my sister really was. And women like Sophia only became more dangerous when cornered. That night, around 2 a.m, my phone buzzed. Sophia. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Then another message appeared. Please answer. We can fix this. You're all I have. I looked at the words for a long time. Once upon a time, they would have broken me. Now they just sounded horrifying. Because I finally understood the truth. I was never her sister. I was her favorite victim. It took me 6 weeks to dismantle the illusion Sophia had spent years creating. Not her life. I never wanted to destroy her the way she destroyed me. That would have made us the same. No, I only removed the mask. The rest collapsed on its own. The first person I contacted was Kyle. For 3 days, I debated whether I should even involve him. Part of me wanted to disappear completely, move to another city, pretend none of this had happened. But every time I considered staying silent, I remembered Sophia laughing about my pain in those messages. And I realized silence was exactly what had protected her for so long. So I created an anonymous email account. Simple, clean, no emotion. I attached screenshots of their conversations, the ones where Sophia joked about pretending Kyle was gay so I would never suspect they were together. The subject line read, "You deserve to know who you're dating," Kyle replied 2 hours later. At first, he thought it was fake. Then he saw the timestamps. Then the photos. Then the messages where Sophia mocked him too. That part surprised me more than anything. Apparently, nobody escaped being reduced to a tool in Sophia's mind. Kyle called me the next morning. His voice sounded wrecked. "Clara," he said quietly. "I didn't know." "I know." "I swear to God, I thought she told you eventually." I closed my eyes. Of course he had believed her. Sophia could sell rain to the ocean. "She said you weren't interested in me," he continued. "That you thought I was annoying." I almost laughed at the absurdity. "No," I whispered. "I actually liked you." Silence stretched between us. Then he asked the question we were both afraid of. "How long has she been doing this to you?" 3 years. Maybe longer. The call ended with him apologizing repeatedly for things he didn't even know he had participated in. 2 weeks later, Sophia's relationship ended. Apparently, Kyle had bought a ring. Apparently, he had been planning to propose during a vacation in Santorini that summer. The ring stayed in its box. Then came her job. Sophia was a marketing director at a company obsessed with image, family values, trust, emotional branding. The kind of company that built advertisements around sincerity. I wondered what they would think about an executive who secretly orchestrated psychological abuse against her own sister. At first, I hesitated. Not because she didn't deserve consequences, because some stubborn part of me still remembered braiding Sophia's hair during sleepovers when we were children. But then another memory surfaced. Sophia hugging me while I cried over James. Sophia whispering, "I'm always on your side." The decision became easier after that. I forwarded carefully selected screenshots from an anonymous account. No dramatic accusations. No emotional paragraphs. Just evidence. Dates. Messages. Patterns. The truth. I expected them to ignore it. Instead, they started investigating her quietly. And once people start looking closely at someone like Sophia, they usually find more than they expected. Inflated campaign numbers. Ideas presented as her own that actually belonged to junior employees. Half-truths on her resume. Nothing criminal. Just enough dishonesty to make leadership uncomfortable. Sophia called me 3 nights later. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "How dare you?" she hissed immediately. I leaned against my kitchen counter calmly. Interesting. No tears this time. No soft voice. No concerned older sister act. Just rage. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Stop pretending," she snapped. "Kyle left me. My boss has been questioning me for days." For a moment, I said nothing. Then quietly, "You ruined my engagement." Silence. "You isolated me from my friends." More silence. "You manipulated my entire life because you were jealous." Her breathing shook through the phone. "You don't understand what it felt like growing up beside you." "There it is again," I said tiredly. "You always talk about your pain like it excuses mine. You had everything." "No, Sophia, I had trust, and you hated me for it." She started crying then, but it sounded different now, less convincing, more desperate. "You're destroying my life." I stared out my apartment window at the city lights. "No," I whispered. "I'm just refusing to let you destroy mine anymore." I hung up before she could answer. But the hardest part was still ahead. Our parents. I invited them over on a Thursday evening. Just the 3 of us. I cooked Mom's favorite lasagna from scratch. Opened the expensive red wine Dad saved for special occasions. The entire night felt painfully normal, which somehow made what came next even worse. Mom smiled while setting down her purse. "Where's Sophia tonight?" I nearly lost my nerve right there. But then I remembered. Every night I had cried alone, believing I was broken. And I told them everything. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Just facts. Screenshots. Recordings. Evidence. At first, Mom refused to believe it. No, she whispered immediately. Sophia would never do something like that to you. I swallowed hard. I thought so too. Dad stayed silent while he read the messages on my laptop. The room became so quiet, I could hear the refrigerator humming. Then Mom reached the screenshots about James. I watched her face physically change. Her hand flew over her mouth. Oh my God. Dad leaned back slowly in his chair, like the air had been knocked out of him. We gave her everything, he whispered. And suddenly, he looked older. Not by years. By grief. Mom stood abruptly and rushed toward the bathroom. Seconds later, I heard her getting sick. I closed my eyes. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Another part wanted someone, anyone, to finally understand what Sophia had done to me. Dad rubbed both hands over his face. When she was little, he said quietly, she used to cry whenever teachers compared you to. I looked down. She never forgot it. He nodded slowly, devastated. I thought she'd outgrown it. So did I. Mom returned, pale and trembling. She's your sister, she whispered weakly. How could she hate you this much? That question haunted me most of all. Because I didn't think Sophia hated me. I think she hated how she felt standing beside me. And instead of healing herself, she chose to wound me until we both bled equally. By the end of dinner, nobody touched dessert. The cheesecake sat untouched in the refrigerator all night. Dad finally stood. We're talking to her tomorrow. I nodded once. Okay. Mom grabbed my hand before leaving. Her eyes were swollen with tears. I'm so sorry, Clara. And for the first time in months, I almost cried. Because someone finally believed me. I was not there when our parents confronted Sophia. Part of me wanted to witness it. Another part knew I had already survived enough. Mom called me the next morning. Her voice sounded hollow. She admitted it. I sat very still on my couch. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. What exactly did she say? Mom exhaled shakily. At first, she denied everything. Then she said you misunderstood. Then she blamed Kyle. Then... Her voice cracked. Then she blamed us. Of course she did. Apparently, Sophia spent nearly 2 hours explaining how unfair life had always been for her. How exhausting it was growing up beside perfect Clara. How every compliment I received felt like something stolen from her. She said we loved you more, Mom whispered. I closed my eyes. When I was sick as a child, you stayed beside my hospital bed for weeks, I said quietly. Sophia never forgave that. The line went silent. Because we both knew it was true. I had severe pneumonia when we were 9. Mom barely slept for days. Dad missed work to stay at the hospital. Sophia spent 2 weeks with our aunt while everyone focused on whether I would recover. We thought she was too young to understand. But children remember where love goes during emergencies. And some wounds grow in silence until they become poison. What happens now? I asked. Mom sounded exhausted. I don't know. But I did. Some relationships do not survive truth. Over the next few months, the entire family changed shape around the absence Sophia created. Family dinners became quieter. Her birthday passed with only a short text from Dad. The framed photos of her slowly disappeared from our parents' house. Not dramatically. Not all at once. One day, the graduation photo was gone from the hallway. Another week, the Christmas portrait disappeared from the mantel. Like grief happening in reverse. The strange thing was that I never publicly exposed Sophia. I never posted screenshots online. Never told extended relatives. Never contacted mutual friends. I didn't need to. Sophia destroyed herself more effectively than I ever could. Her social media became increasingly erratic, long emotional posts about betrayal, cryptic accusations about fake family loyalty, desperate quotes about narcissists and manipulation that clearly tried to position herself as the victim. People noticed. People always notice instability eventually. Friends started distancing themselves quietly. Coworkers avoided her. Even relatives stopped replying consistently. You don't have to push someone off a cliff when they're already running toward the edge. 3 months later, James contacted me. The message arrived on a Tuesday afternoon while I was sitting in my office pretending to focus on emails. Can we talk? I finally learned the truth. I stared at the screen for nearly an hour before agreeing to meet him. We chose a quiet wine bar downtown. The second I saw him, something inside me twisted painfully. Not because I still believed we belonged together. Because he reminded me of the version of myself that existed before Sophia destroyed everything. James looked nervous. Older, somehow. "I'm sorry," he said immediately after sitting down. "I should have trusted you." I looked at the candle flickering between us. "Yes," I said honestly. "You should have." He nodded like he deserved that. Then he explained how he eventually discovered inconsistencies in the screenshots Sophia had sent. A mutual friend later connected the dots after hearing rumors about the family fallout. "I loved you, Clara." The sadness in his voice almost broke me, because part of me still loved him too. But love after betrayal feels different. Fragile. Suspicious. Tired. "I know," I whispered. "Then maybe we can try again." I looked at him for a very long time. 6 months earlier, I would have said yes, instantly. But trauma changes the architecture of your heart. "The woman you proposed to doesn't exist anymore," I said softly. Pain flashed across his face. And maybe that was cruel. But it was also true. Sophia hadn't only ruined my relationship. She had altered the way I understood trust itself. James reached across the table, carefully. "This wasn't your fault." I almost laughed. Maybe not. But healing was still my responsibility. We talked another hour before leaving politely, sadly, permanently. I cried in the car afterward. Not because I regretted saying no. Because some losses remain tragic, even when they are necessary. Life slowly became quieter after that. I accepted a new position at another company, one even better than the promotion Sophia convinced me to reject years earlier. I moved into a brighter apartment across the city where nothing reminded me of her. I started therapy. That part was harder than people think. Not because talking hurt. Because I had to untangle which thoughts were actually mine and which had been planted there by years of manipulation. Some days were good. Some days I still reached for my phone to text Sophia before remembering she no longer belonged in my life. Grieving someone who is still alive is its own kind of torture. Sophia texted me 6 months after the brunch. A long message. Apologies. Excuses. Claims that she had changed. That she was getting help. That we only had each other. I read it twice. Then deleted it. No response. She texted again a week later. Then a month later. Then on my birthday. Each message sounded more desperate than the last. But I never answered. Not because I hated her. Honestly, hatred faded eventually into something quieter and sadder. I stayed silent because I finally understood something important. Forgiveness does not require reunion. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is refuse to reopen the door for someone who repeatedly chose to harm you. The last thing I heard was that Sophia moved across the country and started over somewhere nobody knew her history. Maybe she really changed. Maybe therapy helped. Maybe she learned how to exist without feeding off someone else's pain. Or maybe she simply found new people to manipulate. Either way, it stopped being my responsibility. Sophia taught me that love can become a weapon in the wrong hands. That family can wound you deeper than strangers ever could. That trust should never be handed over blindly simply because someone shares your blood. But she also taught me something else. Survival. Because when the person closest to you spends years trying to dismantle your life, rebuilding yourself afterward becomes an act of rebellion. In the end, neither of us got exactly what we wanted. Sophia kept her life, but lost control over mine forever. And I built a new life where her voice no longer lived inside my head. People think closure comes from revenge. It doesn't. Real closure is peace. It's waking up one morning and realizing the person who tried to destroy you no longer has the power to ruin your happiness. It's understanding that walking away is sometimes the strongest thing a person can do. And it's becoming someone who can never again be broken by the same hands twice.